Hey folks, for those that have been waiting for me to come on live at 11 a.m. here, I am in with my wife, who's taking the video now. We are in Warm Springs, Georgia, one of the many really quaint small towns that we just love coming to. We enjoy the food, the camaraderie, the shops. My wife loves all the Anacue places around that are here. Right now we're in front of one of the barbecue establishments here in Warm Springs, which we might have lunch at later, or we might go over to the Goose and Hog, which is right off of Little Sturgis Road, across the street from the motorcycle shop, or we might even go to the Bullock House, which is in the center of town as well. Before we get together for there's a hometown novel night event today at the Warm Springs Cellars, which is Sonia Adams owns, and she's been hosting these events every month, and it's called Lines Between the Wines. And this month, this afternoon at 2 o'clock, Miss Sharon Marchicello will be there. She's the featured author this month. She is a fabulous, gifted, talented, multi-genre author who I'm looking forward to sitting with this afternoon and kind of getting the conversation going with her. But there's a great book club, book writing group that meets here in Warm Springs that should be attending as well, and we're looking forward to that. And there's a possibility of a special guest showing up at around 3:30. If he gets down here, and I'll kind of leave that kind of as a mystery for those that are showing up. But he's a celebrity in his own right and a very close friend of mine, who happens to also be my publisher. So. If he gets down here and leaves his grandkids behind, that'd be great. But I understand, so I won't say anything more and make any more commitment out of that. But I'm glad he's back in Georgia again after traveling quite a bit. One of the things that's important that I wanted to share with everybody is that in the Shiloh stories, and for those folks around here, the Shiloh I'm speaking about is in my stories is a fictional town. It's not the Shiloh that's in Harris County, which is a nice little quaint town in of its own right, but it's not as described in my stories as that quintessential town square centered kind of community that the Shiloh, Georgia of my stories is all about. But Shiloh, like most small towns, is a place where friends and family are bonded together in a unique, very different way, unlike the anonymous city life that a lot of folks are exposed to, or even in the suburbs around the big cities. People live next door to one another in these beautiful homes and manicured lawns with HOAs and gated communities, but they really don't know their neighbors. But in a small town like Shiloh, small town like any rural South Georgia or southern community for that fact, there's friends and family do bond together quickly. And matter of fact, very early in the book of Sanctuary, which is the first story, the Legacy of Memories portion, Theo and Lydia are driving down the highway headed to Shiloh their very first day. I mean, it's very early in the story. And Lydia ponders the change that they're going to encounter by moving from the suburbs of Atlanta back to their roots in South Georgia to this small community where she's found a home for them in Shiloh. And so she has a question she's posing to Theo, and I think it's kind of apropos to kind of share a little bit this small snippet from the story, so it sets the tone. It says that Liddy bit her lower lip and clenched my hand. Do you think we did right? I mean, buying this house and leaving Peachtree? A chuckle erupted first. Hun, I've no doubt that the vetting process you orchestrated selecting this house removed any reservations I might have clung on to about my retirement or the decision to pick up and move to Shiloh. Her cheeks glowed. Well, me neither, but I wanted to be certain you weren't just trying to appease me. I'm truly looking forward to sinking deep roots and making a slew of friends. My wink brought a smile to Liddy's relieved lower lip. You're right, she said, but how well do you think we'll fit in? Trust me, a town like Shiloh won't allow us to remain anonymous long. Liddy laughed and agreed that Shiloh would be like the small towns we remembered growing up. where even strangers passing through town were addressed as friend or neighbor, and the names were exchanged during a hearty handshake or a hug. Liddy eyed a distant weathered barn dawning at rusted timber. We must be getting close. Well, you need to read the whole story to see how that pans out as they enter into little old Shiloh. But they do get acquainted to an awful lot of new friends who are all connected by family in Shiloh. Their family is such a big part of a traditional time-lost town like Shiloh, and there's many other towns that are real places throughout the South, and particularly in central Georgia, where families do dominate what happens in town, for the good or the bad. When we first began reading Sanctuary, A Legacy of Memories, it may have felt a little overwhelming with all of the characters and all, but when you take a moment to realize they're all connected by a core group of families' names, I think it helps the readers to connect with these characters. They realize their roles in the town are connected with their family history and experiences in Shiloh. Some of the family members go all the way back to the founding of Shiloh, which goes back into the early 1800s. It is important to understand, I think, and I think it's the reason why a lot of folks have enjoyed reading the series because of that. But the main families throughout the three stories that comprise the Shiloh Mystery Series, obviously the Phillips family, which is Theo and Lydia's family, they're the first one there. Here they are arriving in Sanctuary as this unknown entity who only has fond memories of their youth to recall what it would be like to be in Shiloh. But then you get introduced right away to the Arians and their connection with the town and the community. You got the Scribners. The Scribners are connected with the Shiloh Sentinel newspaper and the various characters there, and they get introduced to Theo and Liddy very quickly. And the Wrights, Pastor Wright and his wife, and eventually you get introduced to their daughter, plays a very significant role in the town. The Simmons family. There's a lot of these families that are connected because of the family trees, and they're cousins of the Adams families that are part of the ancient history in this town. Is the Adams family with the feed store, and how that family has played a role in protecting the interests of little Shiloh. And then you've got the Masterson and Priestleys, who are also cousins of the Simmons, and they're also cousins of the Adams family. So they all come from the same family tree. And it's interesting to see how that plays out, how they take care of one another and support one another and encourage one another. And then there's the Archers. The Archers are those, all I'll say so I don't spoil it for you, is there's always that one family that shows up in town that kind of bought their way in. And I'll leave it with that for you to search how that plays out. But the Archer family's been tied into the family government, you know, the mayor's seat inside of Shiloh for 3 generations, and how power and position seems to influence how people respond and react to the Archers. There are decades deep connections between these 4 families in Shiloh, and it's important to see how that plays out in the stories. So I encourage all of you, and I'm going to grab these real quick. It's called there's Sanctuary, A Legacy of Memories, the first book in the series. It's still continuing to be a good seller all over, and it's been out now for over 3 years. Gets you introduced to all of the main characters. Testament is the bridge novel. It is the sequel to Sanctuary, and you get introduced to a couple of new characters and a couple of new families in Testament, but it continues the saga of the challenges of dark secrets and scandals in the past history of the town catching up to it inside of Testament, where it turns into more of a suspense thriller. And then the most recent book come out, which is the final in the trilogy, which is the Shiloh Mystery Series, is Purgatory, A Progeny's Quest. That feeds off of exactly what I've been talking about, the desire to be connected with family and how that plays out in the story. It's very significant. And what family members are willing to do to protect each other in times and places. So here's what I'm going to add to you today, okay? I'd love to hear from you about your favorite characters And as you read all 3 stories, your thoughts on how they progressed and changed throughout the stories. That was the fun part about writing this, because over a 3.5-year period that the stories reflect, lives do change and they are impacted by events and circumstances. Now for the trivia question for a chance to win a copy of one of the 3 books of your choice. In all 3 stories, Theo and Liddy look forward to their family visiting them. Now, who can name all 5 of the grandkids that are connected to Theo and Liddy? The first person to respond with all 5 names, and they're repeated in all 3 books, so it doesn't matter which book you read, wins this week's free Shiloh novel of their choice. So you got to name all 5 of the grandkids to win your free Shiloh novel of your choice. So until then, listen, stay safe until we meet again next week, where Connie and I are going to be in Darien, Georgia, and we've got a surprise announcement while we're there, next to 11 o'clock. Same time, except we'll be in Darien, Georgia, kind of enjoying some family time together. Also, I just wanted to mention very quickly, you got Thursday, August the 20th. There's Hometown Novel Nights. It'll be a live broadcast hosted by the Noonan Carnegie, where Pat McKee and Angie Gallion and Valerie Valdez will be there as our free panel, 3-author panel presentation. If you go online on my Facebook page, you'll see the link to it. Sign up, register to get it, and it's on Zoom, so you don't have to be there in person. But it's going to be a phenomenal, great time. Good to get the full panel back out again. That following that Saturday, August 22nd at 11 o'clock, Miss Sue Crutchfield is going to interview me, give me an extensive hour-long interview that's going to be filled with her own questions, plus any questions from y'all about the novels and my writing background and you know, things that you might be curious about over the hour broadcast. So if you go on to, again, go to the Facebook page, you'll see that, or go on my webpage and you'll see a link. Sign up for that as well. At this current time, it's strictly on a virtual Zoom feed, but there's a possibility we might be able to sneak some people in there if things change in the next couple of weeks. So until then, stay safe, and we will see you next week from Darien, Georgia. God bless.